Brian Osborne, president of the St. Tammany Federation of Teachers and School Employees. With this particular video, there are a lot of slides. I'm just going to talk real quickly over top of them, but feel free to pause, read the information. But basically, the goal of this video is to explain exactly why we now have a charter school coming to St. Tammany Parish for the first time. This is directly due to the actions and inactions of Superintendent Jabbia and School Board President Harrell regarding specific statutes and Bessie regulations. You have several clips here, including Superintendent Jabbia presenting at a school board meeting, then the Bessie meeting he's referring to, as well as comments by Lee Barrios and a parent and activist who was at the Bessie meeting and provided a video of her take on Superintendent Jabbia's remarks. Once the clips are over, I'll get into those specifics about how the statutes were violated. It is important to note that finally this item and this matter are appearing on the agenda for the March 10th meeting. And there'll be instructions about attending that meeting and speaking if you've never been before.
How have our students been doing on state assessment when it comes to accountability? So I did so. And I presented that to Bessie also. I sent that to them. So that was my primary justification when I went there. So I went there Tuesday and presented. And the facts of the case are, when you look at LEAP testing for the grades that they want to start as a 1 through 4 and build to a 1 through 8 school. When you look at the assessment index, when you look at 17-18 school year, we more than doubled their score. When you look at 18-19, we more than doubled their score. Of course, 20 was COVID. We did not have anything for that year. And then the 21 school year, we more than tripled their score. So I presented to Bessie on Tuesday these facts, along with the application being incomplete, and they applied for the wrong charter. They applied for a charter that we could not even hear. When I presented those facts to Bessie, my statement that I made was, we not only do it well in St. Tammany, we do it well and we do it better. When I made that statement, the crowd physically laughed. They laughed. I was there presenting on behalf of this school system, but on behalf of our students with exceptionality, teachers, tutors, interventionists, paras, and all of our staff that service all of our students with exceptionality. I was presenting to them because the facts are, if they want to talk about accountability and assessment, we destroy them. They are the third worst performing school in the state of Louisiana. We are number 18 in the state, and we are working very hard to improve our ranking. But when you look straight at assessment of common kids, common students, we outperformed them, and they laughed at us. They laughed at our employees. Then the Bessie board from that point forward did not ask me one question about accountability. They chastised me because it was my fault and this school system's fault that they submitted the wrong application. It was our fault that we didn't provide them with the right application, that we didn't reach out to them and counsel them and do that. These people are coming in to do business in St. Tammany. It would be one thing if we didn't service our children. If I stood before you here and say, we really struggle servicing our students with exceptionality, this is a problem, I could justify that. I really could. I could justify it. And maybe around the state, people don't do it as well as we do, but we do. And we take a lot of pride in what we do, a tremendous amount of pride. Our teachers take pride. We are accountable to our parents, to our school system, and to our community, and we do that. So with that being said, that Bessie board chastised me over and over. They treated me like no other superintendent. Like I said, I sat there all day. Many superintendents presented their case for different parts of charter schools. This was a meeting basically just for charters. And it was hard to take. It was very difficult to take. And this is a very touchy subject. Students that have characteristic dyslexia, those students, they're hurting. Their families are hurting. And Miss Carrie Sue and our staff in our schools, we work very hard to work with these students to give them the accommodations and the support and the interventions. And that's what Ms. Gardner and I talk about many times is, are we providing the interventions that these students need to give them skills to be successful? But Bessie, they didn't want to hear that. They did not want to hear that. So after I finished, I sat down and numerous people came to the mic that spoke, and they were passionate. And I respect many of those people, parents, students from around the state, some from our district, some from other districts, some that already go to Key Academy, some are community leaders in the area. But after they spoke, they ruled 11-0, unanimous to do it.
Karen, I don't know, I'll let the superintendent go first.
Yes, sir.
Members of the board, Frank Jaffe, Superintendent of Schools, St. Tammany Parish. I sent you a letter and also 3 attachments that explain why we were not in favor of Key Academy coming to St. Tammany. With that being said, again, I'm the superintendent. I thought it would be fair to look at the accountability and facts of the case so I could make an educated decision. In doing so, I had my students with exceptionality team and my accountability team pull equal students with characteristics of dyslexia, and we reviewed those. And we compared those to how Key Academy did in 2018, 2019, and 2021. What we found was students of like characteristics in both places, we outscored Key Academy by more than double in 18, by more than double in 2019, and by more than triple in 2021. We know we not only do it well in St. Tammany, we do it better. And looking at everything that we had, I'm surrounded by an amazing group of teachers, interventionists, paras, instructional coaches, and students with exceptionality staff that do a tremendous job. And they deserve all the credit because they work very hard to meet the accommodations and to do what's right for the students of St. Tammany. They do it every day. The second point.
Lee Barrios, retired teacher. It's important for the school board and administration to openly discuss why St. Tammany was not able to prevent Key Academy from moving forward to Bessie for its charter approval, and why Bessie determined that there was a need for it in the first place, which is the bottom line. Answers to that question should most importantly address the problem that exists in St. Tammany, where this district is not in compliance with state statute and LDE policy nor federal IDEA requirements to provide the appropriate identification and screening for dyslexia, and then address their specific disability with research-based proven effective therapy and classroom supports. The LEAP test is an invalid measure of learning in the first place. I think you all agree that our test-based accountability system is bogus. Using those scores to compare our students improperly screened for characteristics of dyslexia beside key students who were more properly screened and determined to have a disability identified as dyslexia is not a valid comparison. Key Academy was subject to closure several years ago because their students chose not to take the LEAP test for obvious reasons. Their parents and teachers understood the same thing I've been ranting about for years, that the LEAP would simply show that, in fact, their students were dyslexic and could not read the test sufficiently to exhibit their true level of learning. It was specifically for that reason that John White and Bessie did not shut the school down, paired with the fact that it was Senator Cassidy's wife who ran the school. Key will be here this fall, if and only if the St. Tammany steps up their game and properly addresses the dyslexic community, will we be able to eliminate the need for this charter and to legitimately outperform them with improved reading skills and the success it will bring to those students in their classrooms. I recommend that a committee of stakeholders be formed, which includes parents of dyslexic students, administrators, and certified dyslexia therapists, to develop a plan to serve our students that meets state and federal law and LDE policy. The board also needs to discuss ensuring that the next application for a charter is properly and legally reviewed so that if it is turned down, Bessie will have appropriate and compelling data to show that St. Tammany is a better choice than any unproven charter.
Hi, my name is Amy Cuevas, and I'd like to clarify some information regarding the most recent Bessie meeting and presented at the January 20th school board meeting. Superintendent Javia states that dyslexia is being properly handled in all 55 schools in our district. The fact is, there are no certified dyslexia therapists offering dyslexia therapy during the school day in St. Tammany. If parents are not paying for private outside therapy, their dyslexic children are not getting the help that they need during the school day within our system. Superintendent Javia also stated that data was gathered that led to his claim that dyslexic kids in St. Tammany are outperforming the dyslexic children who go to Louisiana Key Academy. I question where this data came from and the validity of this data. If you're testing my son today, of course he's performing well because he completed 3 years of private dyslexia therapy. So I'm not sure that it's really an apples to apples comparison to make that claim. There's a lot of discussion about the process and procedure of the Louisiana Key Academy's charter application. I really can't speak to the ins and outs of their process and the procedures taken. I can just tell you that as a parent with a dyslexic child, I care that this school wants to come here and help kids who have dyslexia. Superintendent Javia stated that during the Bessie meeting, the audience members laughed at St. Tammany Parish public school teachers, specifically special education teachers. Let me be crystal clear on this. Nobody was laughing at teachers. In fact, some of the audience members there are current teachers in St. Tammany. The snickering was the sound of years of frustration from parents in response to Superintendent Javia's claims and his overall attitude that the school is not needed in St. Tammany. And it seems that his entire update regarding this to the school board was centered around this bogus claim of people laughing at teachers. That absolutely did not happen. I'm disappointed in the attitude of the 5 school board members who spoke at the school board meeting in response to Superintendent Javia's update. They are not the superintendent's posse, to quote school board member Tammy Lammy. If anything, these elected officials are our posse and they should be acting that way. I question why none of them came to the Bessie meeting when such an impactful vote was on the agenda. I really would have liked to seen them there so that they could see there's another side to the story of dyslexia in St. Tammany, and they could have seen what really happened. I, along with other parents of dyslexic kids, have met with the former superintendent, assistant superintendents, the head of special education, and various school board members many times over the last 5 years, trying to get things changed for the betterment of kids who have dyslexia in St. Tammany. In fact, a group of teachers who are certified dyslexia therapists presented a turnkey plan to the system where they could be used to help kids with dyslexia. They were ignored and no changes were made. Superintendent Javia's summary of this Bessie meeting is nothing short of gaslighting the entire dyslexia community. I encourage you to watch the replay of both videos and see for yourself. It begs the question, why do they seem to not want the school to come here and help kids who have dyslexia? Thank you.
All right, so basically, Superintendent Javia's message to Bessie was threefold. St. Tammany Parish does a better job meeting the needs of dyslexic kids than Key Academy. The charter application was incomplete, even though it was just one page out of hundreds of pages, and that the charter application was for a Type 2 charter. School boards could only approve a Type 1 or Type 3 charter. I want to read his exact statement here, but I just want to kind of review, just very quick, to try and make this as brief as I can, but I feel like it's fair that we're transparent and the public understands, and this board understands where we are. So last April, Louisiana Key Academy, the dyslexia school, reached out and submitted an application to us. First part of that process is to get a committee together to review that process. Once we review that application and take a look at it, then a third-party evaluator is brought in, and then if all that is clear, then we present it to the board, invite them in, and they do their presentation to the board. So in review, the application was incomplete, the application was lacking the assurance page, and the application was for a Type 2 charter. All right, that's the testimony that he offered to the public and to the board about just what happened, and that was on January 20th. Okay, this is a key statute. This is RS 17:3982, local school boards and their duties. This refers specifically to charter authorization. Feel free to pause. So Superintendent Jabbia remarked that Bessie was harsh. I'd say that they were fair in that they were making sure that our district was held accountable for violating statutes and Bessie regulations. So if they seemed stern, it's because it's very serious business. Jim Garvey pointed out that key point here is that it is not the superintendent's job, nor Board President Harrell's job to determine if an application is valid or complete, among other things. And so that's what he really hammered home in his commentary at the Bessie meeting. Okay, and this is the rest of Jim Garvey's commentary at the Bessie meeting on January 18th. I'm going to read it in its entirety. Another issue was stated that St. Tammany did not know that a Type 2 was being applied for. I've passed out a letter from St. Tammany and from the attorneys of the academy, and I need to apologize to Superintendent Jabbia. When he was last here, I said I thought that this letter was sent to him and that I would apologize if I was wrong. But the situation is even worse. This letter was addressed to the chairman of the school board, and it says that basically what I said, that it is the duty of the school board to rule on completeness or incompleteness, and it cites the statute. It tells the chairman it is not the duty of the superintendent, it is the duty of the school board. It also says in there that he is applying for a Type 1. So the school board was notified that what he wanted to apply for, it's in the very first sentence. Very second line of this letter of the June 3rd letter, if I understand it right, was sent a month or more before the deadline for the school boards to rule on these applications. So there was plenty of time for St. Tammany to have ruled on this. I think the deadline was in July, if I remember right, of that year. Sounds right, roughly. So they were aware and plenty of time to have done this, and they decided not to, apparently. Okay, and if you really want to dig into this letter, again, feel free to pause, but I'm just going to go quickly. Notice this is some attorneys sent this to Board President Harrell on June 3rd, as referenced by Jim Garvey. They say they want to operate a Type 1 charter school, and they lay out the law for them. The fact that a superintendent cannot be the one to determine if applications are valid or complete, and all the other things that go into this process. This is the second letter to Board President Harrell on June 28th, this time referencing a Bessie Bulletin 126. And this lays out guidelines that should appear on the website, and they can be requested in written form. They're looking specifically for the charter application process, how it's reviewed, all of those things. So you see the charter operator making a good faith effort here, and it's just not returned. Now, these are items of concern that Superintendent Jabbia raised. The assurances form that was blank. The eligibility documentation, you can see it says Type 2 charter is marked. Notice you can only mark 2 or 4. Down at the bottom, there is language in that last sentence, but it will serve the North Shore community and surrounding parishes in the eastern region of the state. So there is language suggesting a Type 2 charter instead of a Type 1 or 3. And the Bessie regulation brought up by the lawyers in that second meeting ties into RS 173982, Section 2, when it talks about how application material and information has to be posted on the website. So you see the little box in red. That is currently, and it was at the time, what was posted to the website regarding how to proceed with a charter application process. Notice the scan information. And notice to the right is a template that doesn't have to be used, but it contains the information that's needed. So there's really no defined process here listed, and there's certainly no charter school contact information, no point person with the district to deal with this sort of thing. It's just pretty much prelude to a hyperlink to the state website. So when I first investigated this after the January 20th school board meeting, when I clicked that hyperlink, it took me to the page on the left, which is the state charter school application process, and it leads to type 2 and 4 applications, which is what they ended up filling out. Now when you look at it, when you click the hyperlink, it takes you to the page on the right, which is the district charter authorization, and it does have the type 1 or 3, which is what school boards can approve. So Superintendent Jabbia said he went to Bessie on January 18th to protect the process and that he's accountable to the community. But it was Bessie who was protecting the process and shutting down the excuses and ruling 11-0 in favor of the charter. And what a board president, Harrell, who knew of these things. There's no excuse here. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse, especially when lawyers send you notification of the exact statutes that are being violated. So at the very least, what we needed was a transparent process, a third-party evaluator, and a quorum of board members voting in an open meeting. That's what it would have taken to preserve or protect the process. This is a scandal, and it must be dealt with accordingly. So why should the Federation care? Though I don't begrudge parents seeking what's best for their children, in general, charters can be an existential threat to public school systems. So you can take Jefferson Parish. In 2012, their first charter came in. 10 years later, they now have 7, and the district pays out $77 million. Will pay out $77 million to charters in fiscal year 2022, which is 14% of their budget. So that's of concern, especially when we have the resources to invest in the needs of dyslexic students. Also, if laws are ignored without accountability, how can employees expect their contract will be honored? These are all things of concern for the Federation. Why should the taxpayer care? Well, if you look at the graphic organizer to the right, that's a page from the comprehensive budget document from last fiscal year put out by the district. Notice that citizens are at the top, then you have the school board, then you have the superintendent, and on down. Here is an instance where the citizens were cut out entirely. There was no open meeting. Their representatives were cut out. The board president does have certain powers, but he cannot act alone to speak for the entire body, nor can Superintendent Jabbia. So this is a serious problem, and it cuts against the grain of everything taxpayers should care about. Again, this is appearing on March 10th on the agenda for the school board meeting. So whether you're an employee, a parent of a student, a concerned citizen, I urge you to come out and speak your mind on these important issues.